Beyond the Viking myth, we know the Vikings as raiders and warriors, but few ever ask what happened after the battle. When the axes fell silent, when the shield walls shattered, true horror began. Not for the men lying dead in the mud, their pain was finished, but for the wives they left behind, for the daughters still breathing, for every woman in a conquered village. What the Vikings did to them made death seem like mercy. You think you know Viking brutality? The sagas don't dare whisper what came next. And if you value real, documented Viking history, the kind that exposes what the chronicles omit, support this work. Subscribe, leave a comment with the city where you're listening from. It tells the algorithm this story matters.
Slavery as the first fate. 845. The monastery at Clonmacnoise. Traxeus and his fleet stormed the altar. 43 monks fall. The chronicler describes the slaughter, then stops. His pen falls silent when it comes to the women. But archaeology speaks louder than ink. Chains, iron wings for ankles and wrists, warehouse foundations large enough to hold hundreds of living bodies. Dublin's Viking quarter wasn't built for silver. It was built for flesh. Receipts survive, yes, carved into stone. 20 silver for a young woman, 15 for a mother, 10 if she was wounded during capture. In Viking law, a wife wasn't a person. She was inventory.
Slow executions and systematic violence. And yet, slavery was the merciful fate. Port Marrick falls. Annals record warriors killed. Nothing about the women. But soil samples tell the truth. 23 female skeletons, fractured skulls, broken ribs, defensive wounds. They weren't killed in battle. They were executed slowly after the surrender. This was pattern, not accident. Forced marriages by law. The great heathen army captures Reading. Chronicles record the king's defeat, but the palace foundations whisper what followed. Stones darkened with iron, soaked with blood. Viking war codes were clear. The wife of a fallen man became the property of his killer, not as servant, as wife. A legal marriage by conquest. The Gragas codes detailed the process. The captor had 3 days to claim her. Beyond that, rivals could contest his ownership. Women became the prizes in fights like livestock. But forced marriage wasn't the end of cruelty. It was only another beginning. Ritual sacrifice of women. Bangor's monastery burns. The annals say nothing of ritual. Yet beneath the ash, bones arranged in patterns. Viking funeral sacrifice. When a great man died, his possessions followed him into fire. Horses, weapons, women. Ibn Fadlan describes it on the Volga in 921. Ritual rape, drugging, strangulation, burning. Archaeology confirms he wasn't alone. Henbane seeds in graves, drug residues in teeth. Women sent into the afterlife, hallucinating visions while their bodies were broken. Mercy or torment. Infanticide and economics. The Great Army winters at Thetford. Chronicles speak of cattle stolen. Archaeology shows something else. Infant bones, dozens of them, discarded like waste. Not stillbirths, executions. The children of raids, mixed-blood infants unwanted by their fathers. Blunt trauma to the skull. Quick, cold, efficient. Economics, not emotion. The Vanishing Women. The Domesday Book records villages missing women. Repton confirms the pattern. Mass graves with hundreds of men, but only a handful of women. Women don't simply vanish unless they're shipped away. Isotope analysis proves it. The women buried at Repton weren't locals. They came from Ireland, Scotland, Wales, captured, transported. The unlucky ones didn't get graves. They vanished into Dublin's slave markets. Industrialized slave trade. And Dublin was booming. For 130 years, the docks expanded, not for trade goods, for human stock. Each rebuilt wharf meant more storage, more capacity, more bodies. Warehouses with drainage channels not for rain, but for human waste. Dublin wasn't just a city, it was a processing center. Arabic sources describe Viking slave caravans reaching Baghdad. Fair-skinned Celtic and Germanic women fetched premium prices. The Vikings knew their market and supplied it with chilling efficiency. Punishment pits and living death. Irish forces retake Dublin. The chronicles describe victory, but not what they found outside the city walls. Excavations reveal punishment pits, stone-lined holes, 6 feet deep, 3 feet wide, too narrow to lie down, too shallow to stand. Skeletons inside show broken legs to prevent escape, broken arms to prevent suicide. Women left to die crouched, alive for days, sometimes weeks. Viking law prescribed burial alive for slaves who harmed their masters, and the archaeology proves it wasn't just theory. Peace, profit, and industry. King Harald Fairhair consolidates power. The wars end. Expansion slows. But the trafficking, it doesn't stop. It industrializes. Treaties with Byzantium list prices for human cargo. Pregnant women discounted. Children under 10 nearly worthless. A market refined, catalogued, and standardized. The last raids and mobile slave pens. The Battle of Brunanburh. 5 kingdoms unite to crush the Norse. They win. But in the baggage trains, portable slave pens. Iron frameworks built to hold human cargo. 12 adults or 20 children per unit. Disassembled for travel, reassembled for storage. The engineering was efficient, the purpose horrifying.
War wasn't just about land, it was about harvesting people.
Women as the true objective. The economy of Viking power ran on women. Every major town had holding cells. Every port had processing centers. Eric Bloodaxe dies. The last Viking kingdom in England falls, but the slave networks remain. Christian rulers inherit the infrastructure. They don't dismantle it, they rebrand it. Indentured servants appear in monastery records. The word changes, the reality doesn't.
The darkest secret, killing their own. A mass grave at Repton, 236 individuals, all female, all showing signs of systematic execution. But isotope analysis reveals the unthinkable. They weren't captives, they were Norse women, wives, daughters, executed by their own people as Viking power collapsed, killed to prevent capture. The methods were the same: strangulation, blunt force, poisoning, fathers killing daughters, husbands killing wives. On one skull, a runic inscription, 3 words: better this way. It belonged to a girl, 12 years old, carved after death, a justification even in murder. The system written into law. The Gregos law codes made resistance impossible. A captor announced his claim in front of witnesses. The woman's will was irrelevant. If she killed herself to escape, her family had to pay compensation for destruction of property. Suicide wasn't freedom, it was theft. Church and state profiting from rape. King Aethelred taxes Viking slave trading instead of banning it. 5 silver per woman, 2 per child. Shipwrecks confirm specialized slave vessels, ventilation systems, water storage, capacity for 80 chained women. Alternate. Even the church profited. Excavations in York reveal breeding facilities with baptismal records for hundreds of children born to captives. Almost all died before age 5. The prophets funded church construction. God's work built on systematic rape. Genetics tell the final story. Modern DNA completes the picture. Icelandic populations carry 60% Celtic female lineage. Norwegians, 40% British Isles ancestry. These numbers represent thousands of women, thousands of pregnancies, generations of children who never knew their mother's real names. Conclusion: bones don't lie. The sagas stay silent. The chronicles look away. But the bones do not lie. The Vikings weren't just raiders. They were traffickers, executioners, enslavers, rapists. And when defeat came, they turned their cruelty inward, on their own. When the Viking Age ended, its scars didn't fade. They are written in DNA, in skeletons, in soil, and in 3 words carved into a child's skull. Better this way.